Dardanelles in Turkey is a narrow stretch of sea, twisting like a river from the Aegean to the Sea of Marmara, the line between Europe and Asia, crossroads of the world. The heroes of Homer's Troy fought here for Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world. Alexander the Great fought here. In 1915, the armies of three empires gather to fight another battle here at the Dardanelles. There are coal miners from Durham, footballers from Dublin, Welshmen from deep valleys, and poets from Cambridge. There are Australians from the far side of the world, farmers from New Zealand, Indians, and Frenchmen. There are Turks who are defending their homeland and will never give in. The battle they fight here is born of ambition in high places and ends in low slaughter. This battle begins at dawn one day, when one army arrives, and ends another day 9 months later, when the same army leaves. 450,000 men will die or be wounded. This battle accomplishes nothing. This battle is called Gallipoli. The battle on Galipoli has its origins in the summer of 1914. The Russian, French, and British empires prepare for war against the German and Austrian empires. This summer, the Ottoman Empire in Turkey is yet to choose sides. The Ottoman Empire, 600 years old, Muslim, glorious, corrupt, bankrupt. This summer, both London and Berlin have their eyes on this empire and the fabulous city of Istanbul. It is a summer of intrigue. The German Kaiser visits the Turkish Sultan.
The 300 million Muslims scattered across the globe can be assured that the German Emperor is and will at all times remain their friend.
In London, Winston Churchill, 41 years old, quick-witted, aggressive, ambitious, begins his working day.
Here is the Admiralty building, Winston Churchill's office. Churchill is First Lord of the Admiralty. He runs the Empire's navy. He likes to work not in the daytime, but into the evening. So while most people are leaving, he's arriving. Tonight, he's going to make a colossal mistake.
The British are building 2 warships for Turkey. Churchill knows war with Germany is imminent. He's going to need all the ships he can get. What he does is confiscate the 2 Turkish ships.
Churchill doesn't know how much he offended the Turkish people. He confiscated our ships and he kept the money. Those ships were a symbol of Turkish pride, Turkish honor. It was a new future for us. They were paid by ordinary Turkish people by public subscription. But the ships never arrived. Germany didn't miss this opportunity. They replaced the ships with 2 German battle cruisers. They were most welcome in Istanbul.
It's Wednesday, the 4th of August, and the war which has been simmering for so long is about to boil over. Germany has invaded Belgium. Tonight at 11, Britain will declare war on Germany. The Great European War has begun, the First World War. Those 2 German warships and their crews in Istanbul are a provocation. Britain gives Turkey 12 hours to expel the Germans.
Turkey didn't expel the Germans, didn't even respond to the ultimatum, so Britain declared war on Turkey. Our country has been drawn into the Great War.
Rupert Brooke is 26 years old, known for his poetry and his beauty, the most handsome man in England. He catches the spirit of this summer and the coming of war.
Now, God be thanked who has matched us with his hour, and caught our youth, and wakened us from sleeping with hand made sure, clear eye, and sharpened power, to turn, as swimmers into cleanness leaping, glad from a world grown old, and cold, and weary.
This summer, Rupert Brooke has no idea the war he thanks God for will last 4 years and will kill and wound 27 million people.
This is the town of Bury in Lancashire. As in the rest of Britain, its young men will rush to enlist, most wanting to fight the Germans in Europe. Many of them will never have heard of Gallipoli. But Gallipoli will mean a lot to the people of Bury, because this small mill town will lose nearly 2,000 of its young men to the battle.
18-year-old Joe Murray works down a Durham coal mine from the age of 12. A penny an hour, 10 hours a day.
I set off to fight the Germans because if someone didn't stop them soon, they'd overrun the whole of Europe. They'd played havoc with the women and children, and they would do even worse if they reached England.
Joe Murray joins the Royal Naval Division. One of his officers is Sub-Lieutenant Rupert Brooke.
The British war effort is run by Lord Kitchener. His life is war. His opinions are not questioned. A lifelong bachelor who enjoys flower arranging. He preferred to be misunderstood, said one of his aides, than be suspected of human feeling.
This is probably the most famous poster of the 20th century, Lord Kitchener's appeal for men to enlist. His name doesn't appear on the poster anywhere. It doesn't need to. He's too famous. Kitchener thinks something few do, that this war will take millions of men. The poster is displayed right across the British Empire, and it works. In Ireland, too, there's a response to the call. Men who join together are promised that they'll be able to serve together. Frank Browning, the president of the Irish Rugby Football Union, urges young sportsmen to join up. And right here, in Lansdowne Road Rugby Stadium, they become known as the Dublin Pals, or sometimes the Footballers.
What class of men were they? Barristers, doctors, solicitors, stockbrokers, bankers, civil servants, and many others of a similar class. The best that Dublin City could give.
Part of the first ever Irish division in the British Army is formed here. Catholics and Protestants, nationalists and unionists, men with no political opinion at all. What are they doing together? And what are they doing in the British Army? Part of the answer might lie here. This is the house of Francis Ledwidge, working man, poet and Irish nationalist. Home rule, a nationalist objective. An Irish Parliament for the Irish people was about to come into effect when the war with Germany erupted. But it was suspended until the war was finished. Yet Ledwidge and many other nationalists assumed that the struggle was all but over.
I joined the British Army because she stood between Ireland and an enemy common to our civilization. And I would not have her say that she defended us whilst we did nothing at home but pass resolutions.
There may be an additional reason. Francis Ledwidge is in love with Ellie Vochy, a local girl. He loves her with all the intensity of a poet. But she rejects him and marries another. Francis enlists in the Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers. Like everyone else, he thinks he's off to fight Germans. Meanwhile, in Sydney, Australia, another Dubliner, the flamboyant Dacre Stoker, who commands a submarine, is eager to enter the fight.
The prospect of our ever getting a chance at the enemy seemed utterly remote. We cursed the moment in which we had been lent to the Australian Navy.
Frank Parker is 18 years old, a railway worker from Port Melbourne.
I couldn't get into the army quick enough. King and country, nothing. Who was the king? I'll guarantee if we went and asked who was the king, they wouldn't know. No fear, no. Adventure. Adventure. That's all I'd say.
Frank Parker has no idea he will soon be fighting 16-year-old Adil Şahin from the village of Eceabat, who joins the Turkish army.
I was a farmer growing crops. That was until 1914 when they started recruiting. The headman announced that people born between certain dates would go into the army. We did walking, physical exercises, a bit like gymnastics. Lie down, get up, all that, and some marching.
In London, Winston Churchill brings 74-year-old Admiral Jackie Fisher out of retirement to serve as First Sea Lord. Churchill needs Jackie Fisher.
Churchill and Fisher made an odd pair. When they first met, Fisher wrote that he fell desperately in love with Churchill. Churchill told Fisher, "You are the only man I've ever loved." It wasn't homosexual, neither was so inclined. But it was deep, it was personal, and it was about to fracture with all the drama of a lover's quarrel.
Since he confiscated its ships, Churchill has been thinking about Turkey. A naval attack on the Dardanelles could swiftly lead to the capture of Istanbul, could knock Turkey out of the war, and could ruin German ambitions in the Middle East.
Jackie Fisher, who has built up the British Navy for the big battle against the Germans, is silent when Churchill presents his plan. Fisher hates the plan. He doesn't want his ships diverted to some sideshow in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Churchill wants to sail his battleships through the Dardanelles and make them put anchor here in the Bosphorus. With their giant turrets pointing at the Sultan's palace, Turks would surrender, Churchill thought. Churchill sends his fleet steaming into the Dardanelles. The fleet opens fire on Turkish forts at the entrance to the Dardanelles. In Istanbul, there is panic, a rush on the banks. Everyone thinks the British and French fleet will arrive very soon.
The battleships pound Turkish forts on both sides of the Dardanelles. They want to pass through the Narrows and reach Istanbul. But the forts are too strong, and the battleships too few. They turn and leave.
There are many fortifications like these on both sides of the Dardanelles. What the British really have done is, they informed the Turks that they were going to come. Now, it's clear that they are going to force the Dardanelles with their battleships. The Turks started to get prepared to meet the enemy. What you see behind me is the Kilitbahir Castle. Kilitbahir means the lock of the seas. And from here, you can see how narrow this water passage is. This is the way to Istanbul. So the battleships must be stopped here. Mines were laid from shore to shore in lines. Now, it's getting clear that the enemy has to land an army to capture these forts.
In London, the War Council is reaching the same conclusion, but it's confused, divided. Churchill thinks that the Navy can do it alone. Kitchener thinks it may be necessary to land an army. A Gallipoli campaign is beginning, but slowly, almost by accident.
Sir Ian Hamilton, a gentleman with courteous manners, he writes poetry and speaks French, German, and Hindustani. Kitchener asks to see him.
Opening the door, I bade him good morning and walked up to his desk, where he went on writing. After a moment, he looked up and said, "We're sending a military force to support the fleet now at the Dardanelles, and you are to have command." He resumed writing at the desk. At last, he looked up and inquired, "Well?"
You don't question Kitchener, but Hamilton feels he must. It's a small operation, says Kitchener. Don't ask for much. You won't get much. You won't need much. No, you can't have any aeroplanes. We are assembling an army in Egypt. Go and see what help the Navy needs to get through the Dardanelles. 2 days later, Hamilton leaves here on the 5 p.m. train from Charing Cross Station. He is armed with an out-of-date textbook on the Turkish army, 2 small guidebooks, and Kitchener's half-page of instructions. He meets his staff here for the first time and hasn't a notion who most of them are.
Hamilton notices small signs and omens. He notes that it's Friday the 13th. He kisses his wife goodbye through her veil, something he regards as unlucky. Then, he sets off on a job that will destroy his career and kill or maim 450,000 people.
Five days later, British and French battleships again try to force their way through the Dardanelles. This time, they are preceded by trawlers whose task is to clear the underwater mines. Turks had small mobile guns like these hidden under the trees on both sides of the Dardanelles. Now, a small gun like this cannot sink a battleship, but it can sink a trawler. And if the trawlers cannot clear the minefields, the battleships cannot go up through the Dardanelles. "18-year-old Ahmet Basharan watches the fleet from the fort of Çanakkale.
The ships filled the straits like black clouds. I was an artilleryman on number 2 gun. Whatever we could throw at them, we did. They approached Çanakkale, and then our shells reached them.
Out here in the Narrows, they've requisitioned the trawlers complete with their civilian crews. Now that's a mistake, because as civilians, they can't be ordered under Turkish fire. They're being paid to sweep mines, not to be shot at. They panic, refuse, the battleships, the whole attack is held up. Out in the Narrows, the battle continues. Battleships firing at forts, forts firing at battleships. Then, at 1:45, disaster. The French battleship Bouvet explodes, heels over, and sinks within 2 minutes, taking 650 sailors with her. Everyone thinks she's the victim of a lucky shell from the Turks. 2 hours later, the British battleship Inflexible is crippled. Then Irresistible. Then Ocean. All in the same area of sea. It's a mystery.
There was a Turkish hero of the great battle that day. The little ship you see behind me, the Nusret. 10 days before the naval assault, Nusret laid a completely new line of mines where there was none before. These are the mines tethered to the seabed on long cables, floating underwater. This little ship Nusret holds the might of the British and the French battleships in the Dardanelles.
6 battleships are sunk or crippled. Not suspecting he's blundered into a minefield, Admiral Sir John de Roebeck thinks that the Turks are floating mines down on the current. He's lost 1/3 of his ships. Now he loses his nerve. He breaks off the attack and signals Winston Churchill to say that the Navy cannot force the Dardanelles alone. An army will have to be landed.
Also watching the naval attack fail is Ian Hamilton, just arrived from London. He's reaching the same conclusion.
The sailors are using highly colored expletives about the mines the Turks floated down yesterday. Sheer bad luck, they say. I've cabled Lord Kitchener and told him the straits are unlikely to be forced by battleships alone. I need to take my troops and get things sorted out for a landing.
Also watching the attack is Joe Murray, the coal miner from Durham. He expects to land and capture the Turkish forts.
We had come over 2,000 miles. The door stood wide open, but we did not enter, but turned and left. The Gallipoli Peninsula must be occupied. But the Navy couldn't do it alone.
'18th of March, the day the great naval battle was fought here, is celebrated as our national day. It's a day of victory for the Turkish people. My grandfather fought here at Galipoli for the Turkish forces. And my name Savaş means battle. He named me for the battle at Galipoli. Below me still lies the great battleships the British and the French sent to invade our country. One of the reasons Winston Churchill used to justify this attack was that these battleships were old. They could afford to be lost. They were expendable. It doesn't seem to have occurred to him that the British and French sailors were not old and expendable.
In London, Admiral Jackie Fisher is profoundly disturbed by the loss of his beloved ships and sailors. Always eccentric, he now becomes hysterical and threatens to resign. Churchill is forced to calm him. Fisher writes, "I honestly believe that Winston loves me." Churchill said, "He was old and weak, and I thought I should be able to keep things in my own hands." Hamilton has 75,000 men assembled in Egypt, most wondering when they will be sent to the war in Europe. A clerk, tired of typing Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, invents an acronym, ANZAC. Among them, William Malone.
I took coffee sitting outside in the street and reviewed the passers-by. A motley crowd, soldiers and sailors of the different races, English, French, Australian, New Zealand, Russian, Algerian, Senegalese, natives in all sorts of rigs. Saw the biggest part of the battalion of the Lancashire Fusiliers. They look very young, boys, many of them. They're small men, nothing smart about them. As for the French, they look very slack and soft. Some of the Australians and New Zealanders wrecked some brothels where they had been badly treated. If they'd burnt the quarter down, it would have been a good thing.
Frank Parker help wreck the red light district of Cairo.
God bless me, you never seen anything like it in your life. They got upstairs and they were shoving pianos out, and the fire brigade came out to put the fires out. Well, our blokes, they cut up the hose in lengths and chased the firemen out of Cairo.
Rupert Brooke learns they are to invade the Dardanelles.
It's too wonderful for belief. Shall I loot mosaics from Saint Sophia, and Turkish delight, and carpets? Should we be a turning point in history? Oh God, I've never been so happy in my life, I think. Never quite so pervasively happy, like a stream flowing entirely to one end.
Waiting for them at Gallipoli, an army of Turks, Arabs and Kurds. The Ottoman Empire, an empire older than the British. Commanding the Turkish army, a German, Otto Liman von Sanders.
The British gave me 4 full weeks before their great landing. The time was just sufficient to complete the essential arrangements.
The British command always underestimates the Turks. Before their invasion, they issue a memo to their troops. Now, let me read this memo to you. The Turk is of very little use and has very small power of initiative. He is very adverse to night operations. In fact, Turks, as a rule, do not in ordinary times of peace go to sleep without a light burning.
A fleet of more than 200 ships and Hamilton's army assembles on the Greek island of Lemnos. Hamilton's army practices landing from small boats.
Turkish aeroplanes used to come and fly over Lemnos. Well, you could bet your life the Turks, give them credit for a bit of bloody common sense, they knew we weren't there for fun in Lemnos.
Eric Bush is a 15-year-old cadet from Dartmouth Navy College.
We midshipmen hardly got ashore, except for a picnic and a bathe. Mr. Rupert Brooke stayed in bed with pains in his back and head, and a swelling on his lip.
Dacre Stoker, the Dubliner who was disappointed to be in charge of a submarine in Australia, has also arrived in Lemnos. He is offered a critical role in the coming battle.
I was invited to meet de Robeck and asked if it's possible to get into the Sea of Marmara. De Robeck says if you succeed, it may be that you have done more to finish the war than any other act accomplished. In fact, generally run amok at the Narrows if you get there.
Sending a submarine into the Sea of Marmara is a good idea, because the main Turkish supply route to Gallipoli is by sea. If the submarine can sink enough ships, the Turks can be starved of men and munitions.
From his ship, Ian Hamilton scouts landing beaches for his army. But his maps are based on a 60-year-old French survey and are dangerously inadequate. There are valleys over there that will cost the lives of thousands that aren't even marked on his map.
In 1930, 15 years after the landings, Hamilton played himself in a film called Tell England.
So now we come to tactics. Reconnaissance is quite impossible. We've got to take a good run at the peninsula and jump on both feet together. It's a tall order, you know, but I've got tall men to do it.
Some beaches are undefended. Some are wired and covered by machine guns. Anyone jumping plump onto these beaches is going to step into hell.
If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England.
2 days before the landings, Rupert Brooke dies from blood poisoning from a mosquito bite to his lip. Rupert Brooke's corner of a foreign field is on the Greek island of Skyros.
Rupert Brooke's death might be an omen missed by most, but not Ian Hamilton. With his army at sea heading for Gallipoli, he composes some stirring notes reflecting on the great adventure that they will embark upon. He tells them the eyes of the world will be upon them. Privately, though, he writes something quite different.
Death grins at my elbow. I cannot get him out of my thoughts. He is fed up with the old and sick. Only the flower of the flock will serve him now. For God has started a celestial spring cleaning, and our star is to be scrubbed bright with the blood of our bravest and best.
On the Gallipoli Peninsula, the Turkish forts guarding the Narrows are here and here. Hamilton plans to capture the forts by landing men at 6 beaches. S, V, W, X, and Y will be British beaches. Z is marked for the Anzacs. The men will strike inland and move towards the forts.
Far to the north, Joe Murray is rowing towards shore.
We were the bait and were to attract the enemy's attention so that they'd be left in no doubt that this was the spot chosen for a landing. The suicide party, as we were called, were given as much steaming hot cocoa as we could drink. A wit referred to it as the Last Supper. Lieutenant Bernard Freyberg swum from the other ship's boat and ignited flares on the beach. He swam most of the way back. Only a Superman could have survived so long in that icy cold sea.
Bernard Freyberg was naked, smeared with grease to keep out the cold and swimming with a waterproof pack. He came on his own because he considered it too dangerous for his men. When reports of his lights went to the German commander of the Turkish forces, Lehman von Sanders, he kept 2 divisions of Turkish troops in the area. 20,000 men to guard against the landing of a lone, greasy, naked, and very, very brave Bernard Freyberg. While Bernard Freyberg is on the beach, Dacre Stoker dives silently under the floating minefields.
Feel as safe as you care to when submerged, and do not think of the result should one of the wires catch on the boat's side and drag its mine down on top of you. Some of the crew started a card game, but the players found it hard to concentrate with the constant scrapings of mine wires along the side of the hull.
In the dawn, the Anzacs are the first to go. Among them, Frank Parker.
We got up about 1 or 2 in the morning. We got a hot feed, stewed bully beef or something. We were in full marching order, overcoats and goodness knows what.
Eric Bush, the 15-year-old midshipman, pilots the rowboats to shore.
Oars, muffled to prevent any noise of being lowered carefully without making a splash. The men are starting to row. I take this all in at a glance, but what stirs my imagination most is the look on the men's faces.
16-year-old Adil Shahin from the village of Ejabat.
The corporal, who was the sentry, started saying, "There's something unusual. Get up." The sentry pointed down towards the sand, and we saw there were lots of them, pouring out of their boats. We lined the trenches, and in the dawn twilight, the firing started. The boats were still coming, and more men poured out of the boats. Bunches of them kept coming.
It was very steep terrain, steep gullies, and it was very hard going. We didn't see many Turks at all. It was just a matter of going for your life. We all got mixed up. We were all over the place. The higher up we got, the worse it got.
This is where the Australians first land, in darkness. And here's the first confusion of the morning. They had expected to land over that point, to find low hills rising from the beach. But the Navy can't guarantee to land troops at a particular point in darkness. And so the whole centre of gravity of the landing shifts 1,000 yards northwards to this beach. Turkish opposition is light at both beaches. It's the rugged country that makes the landing go bad. They have no choice but to climb those hills.
200 Turks had to hold the Australians. They started to snipe at the Australian officers. When they ran out of ammunition, they started to retreat. But 10 kilometers away from here, 3,000 Turkish troops are heading this way.
During the planning for the landings, Navy Commander Edward Unwin has an astonishing idea. Take an old ship, pack it full of soldiers, and run it onto the beach. Then, like a Trojan horse, and you can see Troy from over here, like a Trojan horse, the men will swarm out of the belly of the ship and storm the beach. The ship is the River Clyde. Aboard are Irish regiments, the Royal Dublin and Royal Munster Fusiliers. Guy Geddes, a captain of the Munsters, is here.
As she beached, 2 companies of Dublins came up on the port side. They were literally slaughtered like rats in a trap.
The plan calls for long gangways to be lowered onto small boats so the men can reach the shore. But the small boats are in the wrong position. Commander Unwin, whose idea this has been, now leaps from his bridge and runs forward with able seaman William Williams. Together, they line up the boats for the men to run ashore. Finding nothing to anchor the boats, Edward Unwin and William Williams wrap the rope about themselves. Unwin now yells for the landing to begin. The Dublins and Munsters prepare to rush out of the belly of the ship.
Off we went, the men cheering wildly. We got it like anything. Man after man behind me was shot down, but they never wavered.
The enemy troops were so frightened that they refused to disembark. Their officers had drawn their swords and were sending the men down the ramps, but they could not escape the Turkish bullets. The color of the sea changed with the blood from their bodies.
This is a photograph from the bow of the River Clyde.
I dashed down the gangway and found the dead and wounded from the leading platoons and yelled to the men following me out of the Clyde to come on. Then I jumped into the sea. There was a small rocky spit and few, if any, survived an attempt to land there. We all made, Dublins and all, for a sheltered ledge on the shore which gave us cover. Here we shook ourselves out and tried to appreciate the situation. Rather a sorry one.
This is the low bank where Guy Geddes sheltered. It's the only cover on the beach that morning. There's tremendous fire coming from the castle behind me and the village on my right. In front of me, 1,000 men are trapped in the River Clyde. There's nothing for it for them but to wait until darkness. The sea is red with blood for 50 metres offshore. And 3 kilometres down the coast, boatloads of Welshmen are having a very different time of it.
Shells are dropping in the water all around us, but we keep straight ahead. We can see the River Clyde steaming in on our left, and she's getting a warm reception from guns on the cliff above the beach.
This is S Beach, where the South Wales borderers landed. The Welshmen had orders to wait for the men from the River Clyde, link up, and advance inland. But the men from the River Clyde weren't going anywhere, not this morning. So the Welshmen waited. The beach was lightly defended, but there was a fight, and 63 men were killed or wounded. Compared to what was happening up the coast at W Beach, it was nothing.
Not a sign of life was to be seen on the peninsula in front of us. Might have been a deserted land we were nearing in our little boats. Then crack! The stroke oar of my boat fell forward, to the angry astonishment of his mates. Men leapt out of the boats into deep water, encumbered with their rifles and their 70 pounds of kit, and some of them died right there, while others reached the land only to be cut down on the barbed wire.
These cliffs are the only shelter from the storm of Turkish fire from above, and here's why. This beach is a shooting gallery. But by 8 o'clock, the Lancashire Fusiliers have taken it. 6 of them are awarded the Victoria Cross, the British Empire's highest award for valour. The Fusiliers will proudly talk about 6 VCs before breakfast. But the Fusiliers landed 1,000 strong. Now, 350 of them are dead and wounded on this beach. Soon, the Lancashire mill town of Bury will begin to mourn.
X Beach is defended by about a dozen Turks. The Royal Fusiliers, Cockneys from East London, land without a casualty. The men on this beach have orders to wait until they're joined by the troops from W and V beaches. What they don't know is that down the coast, it's a slaughter, while up the coast at Y Beach, it's a farce. Major Jack Churchill, Winston's brother, writes a poem about Y Beach. Y Beach, the Scottish borderer cried while panting up the steep hillside. To call this thing a beach is stiff. It's nothing but a bloody cliff.
Colonel Godfrey Matthews of the Plymouth Marines believes he's in charge of this landing.
Colonel Archibald Coe of the King's Own Scottish Borderers believes he's in charge of the landing.
Colonel Matthews was present at the briefing for this landing. Colonel Coe wasn't.
But Colonel Coe's men land first. Colonel Matthews' men are in support.
British commanders argue among themselves as to who is in charge. Their men are sitting down on the top of those cliffs and making tea. 2,000 invaders ashore don't know that in front of them there are only 1,000 Turkish defenders on the tip of this entire peninsula.
Hamilton has placed command for all of these landings to Major General Hunter Weston. He's 51 years old and has been invalided out from France the previous year, suffering sunstroke and nervous strain, though some said simply he went off his head. Hunter Weston has little regard for the lives of his men, and, privately, no faith in the landings.
Meanwhile, some enemy soldiers from Y Beach advance inland to this little village of Kirtia, and then they stroll back to Y Beach. The village was undefended, but they didn't have the orders to capture it. The enemy has just made a colossal mistake. This small village is one of the most crucial positions on the whole of Galipoli Peninsula. Turkish reinforcements are rushing here now, and they will attack Y Beach in force.
Someone signals a ship offshore to send in boats to take off the wounded. But when they reach the beach, all the men pile in. The evacuation's unplanned. 29 hours after they've landed, the troops have all gone.
The landings are a disaster. The British are halted or waiting on the beaches. No one has gone inland. At Z Beach, the Anzacs are struggling up the hills.
On the hills above Z Beach, Frank Parker glimpses the other side of Gallipoli.
We got as far as, well, you could see water, right over the Sea of Marmara or something, God knows what. That's about as far as we got.
No one will get further across the peninsula than the glimpse of water Frank Parker sees. Riding towards him is an unknown 34-year-old colonel with a reputation for being difficult, Mustafa Kemal. He finds Turkish troops running away.
I said to the men who are running away, "You cannot run from the enemy. We have no ammunition," they said. "If you haven't got any ammunition, you have your bayonets." And shouting to them, I made them fix their bayonets and lie down on the ground. The enemy also lay down. The moment of time that we gained was this one.
Over 100 kilometers away, Dacre Stoker has done the impossible. He has reached the Sea of Marmara. He signals Hamilton, but his radio malfunctions. He has no idea if his signal gets through.
Hamilton is woken aboard ship and he's given a grim signal from Z Beach. It's disastrous. The commanders ashore want to call off the Anzac landing and evacuate. But at that moment, Hamilton is handed a signal from Stoker's submarine. He immediately replies to Z Beach.
This is Hamilton's signal. There is nothing for it but to dig yourselves right in and stick it out. The Australian submarine has got through the narrows. You have got through the difficult business. Now you have only to dig, dig, dig until you are safe.
The enemy's message has been intercepted. Learning that the Anzacs want to evacuate, Mustafa Kemal orders his troops to push them into the sea. His order is clear. I don't order you to attack. I order you to die.